Hello, everybody. Welcome to Totara 10, taking it for a spin. That's what Kineo is doing today. We're also going to be showing you not only what's new with Totara 10, but also what's next and where Kineo is taking the platform. We just want to give a few minutes to let more people join. We've got about 15 people on so far. So, though, if you would like to just communicate in the chat, that'd be great. We'd love to know where you're from. You guys can get yourself a quick drink if you'd like. Don't be shy. You'll see that on the left side or right side. It should be huge saying, "Don't be shy, start chatting." Today we are joined by David Shaw.
Hey, I'm the lead solution architect at Kineo.
And then we've also got Paul Westlake.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Paul Westlake, consultant here at Kineo. We'll be getting started just shortly, but as Kelsey said, we'll hang around for a couple of minutes just to see if anybody else is joining, and then we'll get going.
So where's everybody joining in from today? Are we all joining in from England, or do we got anybody from abroad? We're in the Brighton office today.
Patchy sound.
Patchy sound. Is it just Kelsey it has patchy sound, or can you hear Paul and myself? Okay. No, it sounds like it's.
Oh no, Khan has no sound or image. So one of the interesting things that seems to be happening is there's a weird delay. Can you guys hear me talking over myself?
Yeah, it could be. No, it shouldn't. Yeah, let's give it a go. We're just going to try and swap over to a different sound, to a different speaker, just to see if that makes life any easier.
I'm having.
Is that? Did you say that was better? Hang on, let me just try something. Let me move that further away from me. Is that actually a lot better now? Can you hear us? We've got Kelsey's being clear. Thank you. No. All right, I'm just going to try and plug in a different speaker just to see if this makes any difference. Oh no, actually everybody says it's much better.
What, much better since I stopped talking?
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Okay. I expect if we just, right, let's just put that there. Okay, a little bit of adjustment. And
Can we hold on 1 second? Is anybody, this could just be me because I am doing a sound check, but are you guys getting the same conversation over and over again? You know, Fiona, James, are you guys getting just repeats of bits of the same conversation over and over? Or is it just me and am I losing my mind?
no, fine.
Okay,
should we just carry on now?
And I'm going to take out the headphone because I'm losing my mind.
Okay, if people can hear me, then that's absolutely fine. We'll just carry on talking.
Yeah.
We'll get it going. We're recording this anyway, so if anybody has any issues with hearing what we're saying, you'll be able to download and watch the video of what we're saying. So I think now seems like a good time to get on with it. So the big thing today is what's new in Totara 10 to start off with. There's one of the main things that's happened with the Totara 10 release is that actually it's a consolidation of an awful lot of existing functionality. There are little new bits of functionality put in, but really there's no kind of big new thing being added in. It's all about taking existing functionality, making it better, making it easier to use. Some little tweaks around the edges just to improve the whole experience.
Yeah. Some of the bits which are there from a learner's perspective, but as you said, I think the majority of stuff is there for almost an admin audience, isn't it? Where there's stuff that would have been frustrating in the past, and Totara have taken on board and updated.
Yeah, absolutely, and some performance improvements as well. So floating around in the background that you wouldn't even see as an administrator. So we'll start off talking about the learner experience. I'm not going to go through absolutely every single item that Totara have added in. I'm just going to pick out a few of the more interesting ones that we think are more relevant to people and the more exciting ones. Now, obviously, if there are things in this list that we're not discussing today and they are of interest to you, then please contact us. We're happy to talk through any of these new bits of functionality and explain how you can make use of those. But in today's webinar, we're just going to go through a few of these areas. Okay, so the first one that I want to cover is a current learning block. The current learning block, which is one of the standard blocks, now has some nicer user functionality built into it. What it allows you to do with the existing functionality was that if you had a program and you had more than one course in it, you would click the program, it would open up the program page, and then you would click the course. And that happened even if you only had a single course within that program. And so what's happened now is that when you click that single course program, it skips the program page completely and just opens up that course for you. One of the things that people are looking for is that fewer clicks for the learner to go through, and this is basically just improving that experience around what's going on. Okay, and another one of the areas that Totara have added in around that user experience from a visual point of view is the featured link block. Previously on the featured, if we wanted to put blocks to links within the system, we would use HTML blocks and have to put some HTML code in there, some CSS to make them look good. Totara has now given us a block that is configurable by an administrator. It's got an easy drag and drop, put an image in it, link it off to a course. And here we're seeing the three different types of links that you can put into that block. One is a static image on the left. The middle one is a color block that you can use, which will link off to a course page. And the right-hand one is just a simple carousel with two images in there. You can add as many images as you like into that. And you can put any links you want into that. So it could be to a course page, it could be to an activity, it could be to another website if you wanted to. So that, from an administrator's point of view, just gives us a much nicer view of what's going on and a way for an administrator to see things. Okay, so from an administrator's point of view, there are a couple of nice things that have been added in. Issuing badges, we're a great fan of badges at Kineo, and we use them a lot for a lot of our clients. One of the frustrations up to now is that you couldn't actually issue them based around program completion. You could complete a course and get a badge for it, or an activity in that course. But actually, if you were trying to create a program of learning for somebody and issue a badge out of that, you could do it up now. But now we've got that program completion. It's brilliant. It's a really useful thing to use. We have a course completion editor. Now, the course completion editor in Checker, again, is actually a really useful tool for the administrator to use. Previously, there was an admin tool around certification completions, and it gives you the full history of those certifications and lets you edit them. They've now introduced the same thing for courses. So as an administrator, if there's an issue with a completion or a learner's phoned you up and said, oh, we don't know what's happening, I've completed this and it's not showing as completed, you as an administrator can now log in yourself, go and have a look at that course. You can see everything that's happened within that transaction. So you're looking at what's happened, when it happened, what changed, the settings within that. And if you need to, you can then edit that completion status. So you can go in and you can set something as being completed or have been a record of prior learning, or if it was completed and shouldn't have been, you can uncomplete it. So again, a really useful tool for administrators. Okay, the next one down our list is a partial sync for org and positions in the HR import. Up to now, you've always had to import whole organisation and position hierarchies in. The user import allows you to do deltas, and now they're allowing you to do delta updates for organisations and positions. Generally, it's not really a problem for people with a small org hierarchy, but if you're a big institution and you've got thousands and thousands of elements within it, it can be a bit frustrating having to update the whole lot if you've only got a single change. So this allows us to make those changes in a much faster way as well, because the upload files are smaller. The recycle bin is a really, really useful tool for administrators. What this allows you to do is to take any changes. So if you've deleted a course or you've deleted an activity within that course, those deleted items now go into a recycle bin. As an admin, you can set how long they're kept in there. So you might set them for 2 weeks. But in effect, what it allows you to do is if you accidentally delete an activity, which you didn't mean to do, or you've accidentally deleted a course, you can now take them out of that recycle bin and put them live again. It cuts down the amount of going into backups, restoring courses, those sorts of things. So from a feeling more secure about using your site and making changes to your site, the recycle bin is a really useful thing to use.
I've switched to a new microphone. Does that one work?
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. There we go. No, 20 minutes later, we've sorted out a technical issue. It's probably worth reiterating, though, that the recycle bin certainly doesn't replace any testing through UAT and everything else like we'd normally do. It's not like have a bit of a blade. If you mess up, doesn't matter, you can go back. However, having said that, we've had quite a lot of contact with people saying, yeah, I've just deleted that by accident. Is there any way we can go back? And in the past, that's meant us going back through backups and restoring pieces. And obviously, any change you've made since we've done that, you'd lose that. So can't underestimate the power of a recycle bin. That's about right, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a really useful thing, and I think administrators will like it. Okay, the last one on this list are user tours. Now, I think user tours are actually really, really interesting, really useful to use. Effectively, what they allow you to create as an administrator within Totara are guides to anything within the site. So it is a completely configurable interface that allows you to say, on this page, I want to display this box, and then these particular elements within that page have these sort of user guide, basically, of what it's for, how you expect people to use it, what you want them to do. So this is very much like if you use Gmail and you've got and they've given you an update, they tend to pop a little arrow that just says, here, look, here's the 3 new things that we've added in. Click here, you go next, 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 and it goes away. Now, I can see at least 2 really good use cases for this. The first one is that for new users to the site, you can explain what all the menu items are, how they could use the site, where they can find their learning. But then you can also use it for adding in new pieces of functionality, just to highlight that that's been added in. Also, if you're doing any kind of analytics on your site to see that areas aren't being used or that links aren't being followed and you think that people should be, you could put a little advert effectively in there saying, hey, look, this thing is great. We think you should be using it. Why don't you come along and click this button? And another use case that might be useful is to put out notifications to people. So what you could do is you could just create a splash page effectively on the front page that just says to people, the site's going to be in maintenance mode next week. And then they can just end that tour and it goes away. So it's just something that might be useful for people. But I think instead of creating those captivate user tours that lots of people do, it's now built in. You can edit it, you can change it, you can make those up. Obviously, we can do that as well for you. You don't have to go in and have to do it yourself. There are also there's the ability to back up and save these journeys. And so if you've created one, or there is, this is actually part of the core Moodle functionality. Moodle have a library of user guides. You can go in. So the one I've got up here is about a forum, and this is one I downloaded from Moodle. So actually we can pull them in. You can also, there's a question here saying, can tours be put into the admin area? Yes, absolutely. It can apply to anywhere on the site. So if you've got administrators, you can have training for administrators. You can have training for course creators as well as learners. Okay, going on to the next area. As I said earlier, some of the bits that have been done in the background, so they're not something that you would immediately see when you log into the site. There's an awful lot of performance enhancements that have been put in. The ones that really stand out for us are around the report builder reports. These have been slowly coming in the later versions of 9.9, 9.10. And Totara 10 now has all of those plus some extra ones. So report builder reports are a lot quicker in some particular areas. They tended to be kind of edge cases where they were being a bit slower, and Totara have patched those up. What we also have now is the ability to have a second database that's specifically for the report builder. So if you've got an enormous amount of data and your reports are starting to slow down, then actually we can take a backup of your database overnight and point the report builder at that second database. What that means is that if that database is slowing down because you're running huge reports on it, the main system isn't impacted at all by it, and it keeps the system up and running. Okay, so that's a very quick overview of Totara 10. As I say, there are, please talk to us. The Totara website also has specific details around all of the areas. But what we really wanted to cover is what's coming next in Totara 10, having a quick look at their roadmap and how that ties in with what the market's looking for, what people actually want from an LMS. Now, here's the Brandon Hall study around 5 reasons for switching an LMS. And these areas, so improving user experience, admin experience, enhanced reporting, integrations of systems, and need for mobile capabilities. These are actually all things that Totara has been concentrating on and improving over time and adding in to the system. But also, it's fair to say that we, as Kineo, also concentrate on these and improve that Totara experience around some areas. So what I'd first like to look at is improving the user experience. So Totara's roadmap covers some of these areas anyway. So they're looking at improving the user experience around the course catalogue, just general user experience improvements, simplifying the site, making it a lot easier to get around, but also simplifying courses and programs and certification pages. As we've seen, Totara have started adding in some of these program simplifications, as I showed you right at the beginning, where you can click that individual program and it skips that program page. Now, these are things in Totara's roadmap. These are currently undergoing the design phase, which means that within Evergreen, things will start to appear. But the likelihood is that things are going to take a year, maybe 18 months to start filtering through. But these are areas that Kineo have been taking seriously over the last 2 or 3 years, to be honest. And we have been implementing changes to actually take these things into account already. So here are some examples of things that we've done. Firstly, we've got a course catalogue. So the Totara course catalogue has a lot of information in it, but can look a bit like a list. And actually, people want an LMS to be more website-like these days. They want it to be a better experience for people. And so this site is showing, this is the Weller site. This is actually an open site. The URL's at the bottom. If you wanted to go in and log in and have a look at the site, you can log in. There's no login to it, actually. You can just go in and have a browse and have a look at the things we've done. I've just got a couple of screenshots here. On the left, we've got the PC version, the laptop version. On the right-hand side, we've got the mobile version. One of those elements in the bursting graph was making everything mobile compatible. And actually, all of our designs are mobile-first designs. It's an important part of what we do. We tend to now work mobile up, so the designs are around mobile.
Yeah, so a couple of things to point out on this site. I mean, from what you can see, it's obviously very visual, which is how Weller would like it. It's obviously branded up for their look and feel. It's fair to say, you know, if you think about what your users are used to, if you think about going on something like Amazon, you know, again, it's quite visual. You might do an initial search, but as you can probably see on the left-hand side here, we can then go further with that. So we've got the initial search if we know what we're looking for, but also we can then break that down further into categories. So, you know, I can filter this and say, only show me things that are to do with color, only show me things that are at a certain level, only show me things that are to do with a certain brand. You can imagine as you're filtering down, less and less content is now appearing on the screen, which helps the user go directly to where they want to go to. Again, very sort of, you can almost argue a bit of a sort of Netflix experience. You know, it's, what have I seen before? What's going to therefore be suggested for me? Help me search around that and find what I need quickly. And as David said, you know, this is both desktop version, mobile version, and you can see on the right-hand side here the phone version. And everything we design is responsive. So, you know, it's not just going to work on a phone. It's actually going to understand the limitations of that phone and display things, you know, as they should be.
Fantastic. Okay. So we'll pop on to the next one. So taking that same kind of design thought into consideration, where we're making a much more visual experience for people with images on courses and those sorts of things. This is a record of learning page that we actually use an awful lot these days. It amalgamates several Totara pages onto a single filterable page. So what you can see up here under this type section, where you can see courses, certifications and programs, these aren't different tabs. These are actually filters for the content on the page. So if I'm viewing all here, we can see a mixture of programs and courses and certifications. They have statuses, so they can tell you whether you've completed them, whether they're overdue. And actually at the top, we've got this summary of that completion and overdue and in progress and not started. And those links at the top are in themselves filters. So I can then click on the not started and it'll show me everything that's not started. Yeah, no, it's a very good question. It's rounding. You'll be surprised how hard it is to get things to round properly. So yeah, it is a round. This is a real site, and that is actually a rounding thing that you can't get around. You can't have 1.5 courses completed. So it doesn't always add up to 100%. Yeah, I noticed that when I put it on as well. Okay. No.
Okay, it's a good question about the 1%. That's excellent, thank you. Oh, and I think David covered it very well. I think it's worth, I know we're going to go on in a second to talk about reporting and some ways of showing reporting, but whilst we're on this screen, I think it makes sense to say that this is something that we're being asked for more and more. So if you think traditionally with an LMS, reporting was something that was maybe pushed out once a week and pushed out as a PDF or pushed out as an Excel sheet, and and people then went in and referenced. But when we're talking about these LMSs now being taken on the road, being displayed on a mobile device, etc., it's more a case of making on-screen reports available and making sure they're up to date, and someone having that to hand as they're walking into a venue. So you imagine an area manager, for example, they don't want to have to take Monday's report that they had as a PDF that was emailed to them. They want to be able to, just before they walk into that venue, look at their laptop, look at the LMS, it brings up the training completion, right there in front of them. So we're doing more of this sort of thing where we are giving people high-level reports on the screen, which they can then drill down further into. They're walking into a specific venue, for example, they will be able to say, okay, well, I know overall my region is 80% training compliant. I'm now walking into this venue in Brighton, and I know they're only 40%. Actually, and let's dig deeper again, find out which team is, potentially, letting us down, and we even go to sort of individuals. So this is something we're being asked more and more for. How can we have reporting sort of on hand?
Okay, so the last one of these screenshots is around course pages. So again, this one's a slightly plainer look to the page. In theory, we can put images in the background and we can have colors around completed and not completed statuses. But actually, again, this is a live site. It's a screenshot from a live site. So this ties in with the client's requirements and their branding. But instead of showing, again, a big list of activities on a page, actually what we can do is we can keep it in line with the style of the rest of the site, got those blocks, which works really well when you're going down to a mobile device. And again, it's filterable. So actually we can say, well, show me, there are 20 things in my course. I know that we try to avoid putting lots and lots and lots of things into a course, but sometimes it's unavoidable. And actually we can here say, well, you know what, only show me things I haven't started that I need to do to complete this course. And it would then filter the page to make that user experience an awful lot easier for finding things. And that's really important, especially for mobile phones, where you haven't got a big amount of real estate to scroll down the screen. You are literally seeing one activity at a time. It's good just to say, show me anything that I've done. But again, as I say, it's keeping consistency across the site for a look and feel. A lot of the time you can make a really exciting front page, but actually the rest of the site then loses its impact. And being able to apply these types of things across the site keeps that general usability thing in people's minds. You're using it in the same way. It looks consistent across the site. Okay, we'll skip over to enhanced reporting. Now, as Paul mentioned earlier, enhanced reporting is actually a really important part of everybody's lives these days. What we've done here is actually these are standard Totara functionality. So this isn't something that we've customized to do. We have set these up for our clients, and we've gone in and we've created these reports and we've created the blocks. But in effect, what we're using is standard Totara functionality to create reporting dashboards for managers or region managers or line managers. And as an overview, this is a really useful thing to do. So it's a really, really important part of an administrator, or sorry, from a regional manager's point of view, or from a manager's point of view. And there are a lot of things that we can do. We know that the reporting it can be a little bit of a black art sometimes, but we've got lots of experience. So if you're looking for good reports and how to set them up, then we're more than happy to help you set up the dashboards and try and get things working. But this is just to highlight that everything I'm talking about now, this isn't Kineo's functionality. This is standard functionality. These are things that we can set up for you. Okay, so This is the last one I want to cover around integration of systems. I will mention the need for mobile capabilities just because it's on this page, although we haven't got anything specific about it. But the big thing that, as I mentioned earlier, is we design mobile first. It's a really important part of what we're doing. There is an offline app that we can implement, that we can get up and running for you, which allows you, it's not only an offline app. I mean, one of the bits of functionality in it is that it allows you to download SCORM packages and do that piece of e-learning, and then it will then sync back to the main LMS when you're back online again. But it's not only for that, it actually gives you a view of the course page. There are activities that you can do, and more activities have been added. The functionality of those activities has been added. The other advantage of that app is that it can do push notifications as well, so that we can push reminders out to people within that app.
David, they've got a couple of other questions. I know the app was perfect because there were a couple of questions about the offline app and how that can work. And one other thing I'd add to the app is that we can very much brand that up as well. So it can be, it won't look like it will match the look of the rest of your site if you want it. There's another one which I think is around reporting, which was around when we were talking about on-screen reporting, and the question was, is there an option to not only show completed but also started and not completed training? So I'm assuming anything that we've got as a measure we can use as a report.
Yeah, absolutely. The reports that we had up and running there were fairly straightforward. Who's completed what and who hasn't completed, and quite a lot of the time that's all a manager needs to know. Yeah, I understand from an administrator's point of view, you want that statistic of, okay, well, how many people haven't actually started it that I've applied it to. So absolutely, we can create reports around that. You can do pie charts with those in, and graph charts. You can also stack the charts as well, so you can have not started, completed, all within a single chart. So you can see how many people the learning has been allocated to, and then look at overall percentages of who's completed it and who hasn't in a really simple chart. So yeah, we've created reports like that. I might not have put one on that dashboard, but yeah, we've definitely created reports. Okay, so let's skip over to integrations of systems. So the question is, why is integration important? And it's a very big question, and quite an important one for what the market's doing and what the market trends are. Now, again, here's another Berson quote. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the gist of it is that people are learning through different interfaces, going to different places. It's not necessarily just sitting down and doing some e-learning. People use their smartphone. They look things up on YouTube. They talk to their friends. It's a much bigger area of learning. And actually, one of the really important areas on this page that's worth highlighting is that it's an ever-expanding marketplace of external and internal content. And that external content part is the really important bit. That's why integrations are so important. It's not just saying, well, I've got an LMS, everybody's going to come to my LMS, what am I going to do? Now, this lovely, pretty starburst of a system, of a diagram, has got Totara in the middle, and really these are things that Totara, that Kineo are really working on integrations, and actually these are things that we are either currently doing, or actually one of them is an aspirational, this is the future of learning part within it.
Yeah, I'll just say with that, so although we've got Totara in the middle here, it's probably worth remembering what David just said there, which, Totara doesn't have to be the centre of the universe and everything else revolving around it, but you should see Totara as one of the elements in that sort of learning environment, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a very obvious one that Totara links into Totara Social. It's a natural step for Totara to be working on and doing, and I know that those integrations are happening and are being worked on. So there is currently an integration between the two, but that integration is getting closer and closer with more information being fed across. And there's a very obvious one that people use that happens quite a lot down in this bottom right-hand corner. We've got a little database. So this is linking out to data warehouses, pushing data out so that it can be analysed elsewhere. And obviously the Salesforce link for HR data. These are things that happen every day for all of our clients. Those are happening all the time. But actually, there's a bigger market. There's a bigger can't think of the word, marketplace basically for actually integrating into different systems.
Yeah, so the database one there and the sort of data warehouse. So if you've got an existing system and maybe you use, I don't know, something like MicroStrategy to do all of your analysis of data, you know, it's not like, okay, we're thinking of moving to a new LMS, we're thinking of a more modern LMS, and maybe we're looking at Totara Learn. It's not a case of, okay, well, let's chuck all those extra bits in the bin as well and start again. You know, Totara Learn will happily push out its data to something like MicroStrategy. You know, the reports that you've already got set up will just continue to work in the way they have done before.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's also worth noting that on the bottom left-hand corner, we've got Learning Locker here. So this is an LRS. Now, the reality is that LRSs are very much like a data warehouse, but actually they are specifically XAPI data warehouses. So XAPI is becoming slowly much more important in the place. We're being asked about XAPI. We've been talking to people about creating e-learning that doesn't link into an LMS, that actually just talks to an LRS in itself. So that differentiation of elements within this big network is actually an interesting area to think about. If you've got Learning Locker receiving XAPI information, what Learning Locker allows you to do actually is you can use that information to trigger messages back into Totara Learn, for instance. So you could say, well, if you've watched this video and you've done this thing, then why don't you enroll them on a course within Totara? Those kind of integrations and that bigger thinking about people not doing everything within Totara, but actually doing it out in the big wide world, and then feeding back into suggesting training for people to do within other systems, is a big, powerful idea within learning.
Yeah, just pick up the other thing with the Learning Locker's great at is that most industries have an awful lot of data, and that data could be about a number of different things. So you may have measures on number of units sold. You may also have data on, I don't know, number of accidents in the last 12 months that there's probably stored on a different system. You may have data on, back in my old day of working in a restaurant, we used to measure waste and just everything, absolutely everything. But they were all held in individual sort of bits of information on disparate systems all around the place, if you like. And what Learning Locker is going to allow you to do is let's get all of that data, let's bring it all into one Learning Locker, if you like. And at the same time, we've got our Totara data that's writing into there and saying, here's the training that David's done. So at this point, it now allows me to do real business measures of saying, actually, I can prove now that we have reduced waste in certain restaurants because certain people have done a certain piece of training. Or flip that around the other way. We can prove that it makes absolutely no difference at all. So we'll question why that bit of training is even in place. And it really gives us that holy grail of we can prove now the return on investment of a piece of training, just by tying all of those pieces of data together.
Brilliant. Some of the other things we've got on here, I'll randomly go round. We'll talk about things. So at the top left-hand corner, we've got Curator, and then there's pink. This is really around curation of content. So it's allowing external content and interesting things in the marketplace. So websites, Twitter feeds, RSS feeds, that kind of interesting news to be gathered from the whole of the internet and then filtered and made relevant to you and then displayed within Totara. So it might be that you've got a page, a specific course about line management, and actually what you can do is you can curate this content from outside of the LMS that would then feed into a block within that course to show what's happening in the world around line management. And that in itself is an interesting way of getting people to come to the site. at the moment, an LMS can be quite dry. Why would you want to go there? You're there to improve your career, but actually getting people to go there to see what's happening in the marketplace or see what's going on in their industry is actually a really powerful way of getting people to visit the site and then see that there is learning around those areas that they're interested in that might improve what they're doing and increase what they're doing.
I mean, the other way you can look at that is that, rather than this just creating a piece of learning for you, you can use that in addition to the learning you've already got in place. So if you've got an existing course on, say, a compliance piece, we can get articles around that topic to be brought in as part of that course page, so that it's almost dynamically updating that bit of content as it goes, which means that the content is pretty much always up to date and fresh and modern.
Brilliant. Okay, what haven't we covered? We've got Digital Me and Credly at the top right-hand corner. So accreditations. Accreditations are really interesting things. And they are an expansion on the idea around digital badges. So Totara itself has digital badges. We tend to see those as being issued as kind of congratulating people, milestones in their learning, rewarding people for doing things. The idea of digital badges is actually much bigger than that, and it's all around actually recognizing or credentialing people for doing actual work. So it's not really just badging it and saying, hey, congratulations, which in itself is a really powerful tool within the LMS, but actually linking out achievements within the system, issuing credentials, so things that are actually recognized within an industry, to say you've actually completed a piece of industry recognized training, is actually a really important part of firstly encouraging people to come to your company to work because they know that the training's really good. But also as a business, you can, if somebody turns up and they've got a credential from maybe one of your competitors, you know the level of training that they've had, you know the gaps, and actually you can save the amount of effort and that you put into their training because you know they are of a certain standard already. And maybe you just want to patch those little gaps in their knowledge.
Yeah, if you think of this going forward, if there's an industry standard, so let's say, for example, first aid at work may be a good example. So if I've done first aid at work at company X and I've got a credential that says that I've got that skill, and then I change job roles, why would my new employer pay for me to do that again? That's crackers. I've still got that skill. We can write that out as a digital badge. And this isn't just my old boss has said, yes, Paul was good at that. It's by clicking through on that badge, you can see who issued that, when it expires, what I had to do to achieve it. There's far more detail in there than just a sort of a sticker to say, yes, well done, and a pat on the back. So if you think of that longer term, the potential there is for industries to have a standard, and we can measure those people against that standard. And as David said, industry-wide, the amount of training people require potentially could drop.
Yeah. The last one I think we want to talk about are the icons at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So these are things that currently don't exist, but we think are future things that will exist. It's around how people use an LMS, how they interact with an LMS. At the moment, people go on to their PC and do a piece of learning, or as we've talked about here, go and find news and updates around what they're doing in their industry. Or they'd use their mobile phone to go and do these things. But actually, these icons down the bottom are things like Alexa and Siri. It's how do you interact with the LMS? How do you interact not just necessarily with the LMS on its own, but the whole system? Being able to go in and actually ask a question.
Yeah, sorry, make sure my microphone's back on. Yeah, so just quickly picking up on that one. It's going to sound a little bit of a potentially an odd thing to say, but this is almost the industry and LMS in general catching up to things that people are probably already doing at home. So, my wife used to write a shopping list, for example, on a piece of paper and then moved on to writing that on her phone. Now she shouts at Alexa and asks Alexa to add something to the shopping list, and it's done automatically. If you think about it with an LMS, to a certain extent, it's a similar sort of thing. My boss used to tell me to go in and do a piece of learning and tell me exactly where to click and go through the link to do a piece of learning. That's what I used to do. Now we're going towards systems where I know where the learning is, so I'm going to go in, but I still need to navigate around a little bit. And as David's already said, we've made that slightly easier for people to find content. But think about that a little bit further down the line, where I'm about to walk into a meeting where I know there's going to be potentially be a bit difficult conversation. Why can I not just pull up an assistant and say, what training do you have on difficult conversations? Or remind me of a piece of learning that you've got for that. And, we're used to using that voice assistant. Siri comes back and says, sure, got that. How long have you got? I've got 5 minutes. Okay, here's a course that suits that. So there's a lot of talk in the industry at the moment about the whole death of LMS and how LMSs are going away. And I think that's a bit of a misnomer, because in some ways what that's saying is an LMS as we know it, which is a clunky database that people have got this preconceived idea of how it might look and how it works. Yes, that may be going away. And we would argue that that's potentially a good thing. So what it's actually doing is, rather than going away, it's evolving. It's evolving into something where it's easy to navigate. It's there when people need it. It's easy to dip into, and it becomes the go-to. So if you imagine your LMS almost becoming your corporate Google, rather than people doing a Google search for things, they come into the LMS and search. One of the icons I've got at the bottom there is Google Assistant. So, we do Google searches now by voice. Why would we not be able to search an LMS by voice going forward? And that's where we see this going. Now, myself and David were fortunate enough to be at a show a few months ago where we saw the technology that allows us to do this. But again, they didn't have any idea of where it was going in the background. And the first thing that came to mind for David and myself was, well, the obvious use for that is for training.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe to summarize this whole integrations piece is that the important part is the ability to create these integrations, to either have them built into the LMS or into those different systems, or to have the ability to customize it to do it. So if it doesn't exist at the moment, it's those web service interfaces, the customizations that can be done to it. And Totara is a perfect platform for that. Being open source, we can go in, we can make those changes. Those changes can be fed back into core Totara, or Totara can make those within its roadmap. You get a lot of systems that are actually locked down. People won't make changes to them. And Totara gives us that flexibility to move with the times and to link into all of these different systems. We're not saying that Totara is going to create absolutely everything. And what this shows is that actually we can pick and choose the best bits of technology and how people are working, or what you've already got in your company, and integrate those into a much better system for giving people a better learning experience.
And also, you don't need to do everything in one go. Like everything, the nice thing about this is the ability to start with Totara Learn and then realise, actually, we haven't got a social idea. Where are we going with social? How's that going to look? Or maybe bring in social further down the line, and then we talk about credentialing and how might this work. So it's not you need to decide what you need today. It makes sense to have an active roadmap of, this is where we want to be in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 5 years' time. That's absolutely fine with us, because, again, as we're showing here, this is just the integrations that came to mind in mine and David's quick brainstorm based on stuff we're already doing for sort of clients. So, there's bound to be other stuff that comes along. A question came up last week about, well, we've already got lynda.com. Can that work? Absolutely, that can work. That can work either way. So, we can suggest lynda.com courses from within Totara, but similarly, if someone's already got completion data in lynda.com, we can bring that into Totara, when we move across to that. So I know it's a cliche thing to say, but, this is just a starting point. You tell us what you're interested in, tell us what you're trying to achieve, and we're pretty confident that we can get there using an integration with one of the other systems.
Okay, so I'm just going to skip back through and just have a quick look at some questions. The option of having an RSS feed, Kineo only option, no, it's not. There are blocks that you can get to be added in. Where we were talking about Anders Pink just now, the Anders Pink plugin, is one that can be installed. It's actually a Moodle plugin that can be added in.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I'd be very wary of just putting in a generic link off to a site that's bringing in any content you like. So just quickly, I mean, don't want it to become a sort of sales pitch around as Pink, but just explaining how that might work. If you do a Google search, obviously a Google search will bring back anything that's been added to the internet ever. So you could be bringing back an article around, so in David's case, we talked about some sort of leadership, doesn't matter what the topic is, but that will bring back articles that are potentially years out of date. So what the new tools that we use don't do that. They look only at the last 30 days of internet traffic that's been generated, or the last 30 days of articles, sorry. And then they also filter that by the amount of times they've been shared. So if I find something particularly useful, the chances are I'm going to share that. And if dozens of other people do the same, when people first see that tool, they get confused with it and say, well, this is ridiculous. I do a Google search, it brings me about 30,000 return potential articles. Yours has just brought back 3. Now, our argument with that is, well, actually, once you understand it, that's actually a really good thing, because you haven't got an infinite amount of time in a day, and those 3 are the 3 that you actually need to read. The plugin itself can work in one of 2 ways. So we can get it to automatically just bring in those 3 articles, or we can get it to go off to the L&D team, who can look through those 3 articles and say, actually, I only think this one is relevant for our site. They can mark that, and that's when it's pushed off to Totara.
Yeah. So yeah, Anders Pink is a pretty powerful tool. But yeah, it doesn't mean you need to just use Anders Pink. There are other tools available, obviously, but we think Anders Pink is a really good one. There's some interesting conversations around there about how the LMS actually isn't dead. Well, we would agree with that. It might change, it might morph itself slightly and probably be given a different name by the industry, but people still need to track what people are doing, and at the base of it, that's what an LMS part of it is. Okay, I think that was it for questions. Excellent. Yep. Thanks, Con. Anders Pink's the best one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So, unless we haven't got any other questions, I'm happy to call that an end. No. So I think if anybody's got any further questions that they want to ask us about Totara 10, then feel free to contact us. Our client services team are ready and waiting to talk to you about upgrades and all those sorts of things, if you're interested, or if you're just looking for any particular bits of information around any of the bits of functionality that we didn't talk about, then please get in contact with us to give you a talk. So there will be a recording of this video available. And we can get some information out to people. So if you're looking for other sites that you can look at, yeah, absolutely. We can send out a few links to people. There's Sony, which is an open one, as you say, well, we can dig out a few that we can send out to people so you can have a look at it.
Okay, well, firstly, thanks, David, for his time. We can only apologise for the I would say farcical setup with the microphones in the first place. As usual, these things go absolutely fine in testing, and then the 3 of us get into a room and everything falls apart. So I thank you again, certainly, for your patience with that. And I think we've sort of got there by hook or by crook by the end. But most importantly, let's keep the conversation going. If there are any conversations or any questions that come up following the webinar, probably the best place to catch us is on Twitter, where we're at Kineo, or come to us via kineo.com. And obviously we'll pass on your inquiry to the relevant parties. But for now, thank you very much all for your time.